Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to take your life and your business to the next level. Today, I'm excited to have Colin Kingsmill as my guest. And let me tell you about Colin. Colin Kingsmill is an entrepreneur, coach, and founding partner at Whole Human Coaching and a strategic advisor to Kaylo, and that's KayloLife.com, so you can look that up too. He is currently authoring a book entitled Fearlessness, Crossing the Bridge from Fear to Bliss. When people get stuck at critical transition points in their lives, he assists them in deconstructing the stories in their heads, overcoming fear, and reconstructing a new narrative to move forward, live their authentic selves, and thrive. He has an acute ability to make sense of this crazy world that we live in. His ability to fast track clarity of the mind with insight and humor guides people of all ages through relationship dynamics, confidence building, which I love, and self-improvement, overcoming challenges and achieving desired results. He believes that we have lost touch with our shared humanity and have become distracted by division, identity politics, negative news cycles, corporate and special interest greeds, and other forces that crush our souls. He is on a mission to help people rediscover their humanity, be fearless and free, and remember who they are and who they will be to change the world. Today, I thought our topic will be 8 steps to overcoming fear and thriving in life. Please welcome Colin Kingsmill. Such a great cause and agenda that you have.
Thank you, Vicki. It's great to be here, and thank you for letting me have a chat with you.
Yes. We start out with a very easy question, Colin, and that is,
okay.
Where do you live? Where do you call home?
I call home Atlantic Canada, so I'm in Nova Scotia, just above Maine and Boston, and just north of there. I spent a lifetime in Western Canada and in Europe, and about a year and a half ago, I decided to move back to Canada, but to come to the Atlantic coast, to like Vermont style living,
Yeah. September
someday,
lobsters.
lobster and beautiful trees and the leaves and stuff like that. So I live in a very healthy part of the world, and I think I know I chose this place so that I could serve others, right? To be of service from somewhere that's calm, cool, collected, and tranquil and grounded. So
that is on my list to go up that way. I have a cousin that actually lives in Maine, and I thought, well, if I go as far as Maine, I might as well cross the border and see
of course
that.
You got to come visit.
Yeah,
come
for
anytime.
For sure.
Come anytime. So that was an easy question.
It is, and they get harder. No,
okay, that's all right.
They get more interesting.
Okay,
all of them you can answer well. So, what are some simple steps to overcoming fear?
Well, look, I think the first thing is to recognize that you may be framing your life from a fearful perspective, right? I think so much of what we do today, whether you're a young adult or somebody in midlife or somebody in later life, is we frame everything we do, or so many things we do, through this lens of fear, right? What will they say? What will he say? What will she say? What will happen if? What would, and so my my mission is really to help you overcome that fear, to help you push past that fearful place that you might be in. So I guess the first step is recognition. Understanding that you might be making decisions based on a fearful perspective, or a fearful launch pad, if you want. And I guess my first step in overcoming that, once you've recognized it, is to build a bit of a barrier around yourself. And look, I know that we all have masks and barriers, and we hide behind personas and things like that. But what I mean by this is build a protective wall against negativity and against the absorption of negativity. And by that, I mean things like social media, things like the news cycle, even toxic friends. And I know that a lot of those things may feel good to consume, to consume the negativity of this, or consume the news, or to get excited about an argument on Twitter. But ask yourself, is that serving you? I don't think it is. So really my first step is kind of set a boundary, set a perimeter to protect yourself from that toxicity, from that negativity. And then the second step for me is really beginning to listen to our bodies and listen to ourselves, right? So often, I think in today's culture, at least in the West, for you and I in North America and Canada, we get disconnected from feeling who we are and what we really are. There's this mind-body disconnection. So those would be my first two steps, right? Protection, right? Wall of a protective perimeter, right? Less headline news and more knowledge, reading, history, geopolitics. Like, go for the in-depth stuff. If you want to have a nuanced conversation about something, dive into it. Don't just read the headlines. So protection would be step one. Listening to you would be my step two. And then I think really the next step in kind of becoming fearless is kind of owning your future, right? Like, what do you want to be? What does the picture of your life look like? I think so often in today's society, in today's world, we are left reactive to. We're reacting to so many things going on, right? In the world around us, that we don't realize that, wait, I can actually be the captain or the sailor. I can navigate where I want to go. And I think today's culture kind of forgets that. Forgets to remind us that we're in charge, right?
As I normally do, I want to unpack a few things that you said. So when you first talked about recognizing, and and you are right. It's first to take that time to quiet yourself, your life, enough to recognize. I think sometimes we mask, and we do not. We want to be busy and go, and we don't really take time to absorb what's happening all around us. So
that's such a good point, right? I think all of that busyness is a distraction from getting to the real you, right? Because if you're really busy all day long and you're running around and you're running errands and you're going from one thing to the next and you're out of breath, you certainly can't stop and think about, who am I, right? Why am I here? What is my impact? What do I really want to, what am I really doing? So a lot of distractions get in our way.
Yeah. And you think young moms or young parents, as well as people that just started a business, especially in these last 3 years. And you're having all of these people tell you what to do. And so you're not really doing anything because you're just listening to everybody else.
Yeah, you become this sponge, right? This sponge of, an idea from here, an idea from there, and all these things. And my message is really all about clearing the clutter of what everybody else is telling you, right? And listen to you and your body and your soul purpose, and why are you really here, and what's the impact you're going to make, and what is the purpose that you're here for. I think we get distracted by it all day long and bombarded by messages from every which way, right? From top, bottom, left, right, doesn't matter what, from everywhere, basically, right?
And then that kind of leads me to the discussion of protection that you talked about. And you talked about having that protective boundary. And I love that, that's a visual that I can really see. But sometimes you don't want it to be a wall where you get stuck. And there's so many conversations that I've had with people in the last couple years about people were stuck and they're in that circle of resistance. But being able to get out of it means that you have to, you really have to recognize who are those influences that are impacting your negative, right? So I think that as parents, as mentors, we have to remember how we say things and how that's going to resonate with people. And I just think back to my mother-in-law, for example, and everything. You were always told that had to do things in a way because what would people think?
Right.
And it was so difficult for you to be yourself because it wasn't what in her mind what people would agree with. And so as we're parents or we're mentors, we have to really unlearn a lot of what has been imprinted on us over time to be carefully comfortable in having that protective boundary of saying, I'm good with who I am, how I am.
Yeah. That's such a, I think, such a critical thing for people living today of any age, really. But I think our youth are more susceptible to it. But you are absolutely right. There is a very fine line between setting up a protective barrier against negative influences, right? Which could be drugs, alcohol, addiction, news. Like there's so many things that are bombarding people today, right? So pick your enemy, but there's that balance between protection and a barrier. And I think the distinction for me is the barrier is you not living in authenticity, right? So if you set up a barrier and you say, this is my mask, this is my persona, for me, there's a disconnect, right? Between the mask and the persona. So for me, it's set up a wall of protection, but don't put up a mask. That's kind of how I distinguish it. You know, protect yourself, but don't fake it with the mask. If that makes sense. I think that's how I would kind of dissect that challenge, if you want, of walls versus boundaries and masks.
And the other part was you talked about the things, the news, for example, and so we as entrepreneurs need to keep understanding current. But I myself, I don't listen to the news. I get some information to keep me understanding. But I loved that you said that you pour in that positive thing. So I read 10 pages of positive or things to help me understand how business works and things like that. That it's enriching my brain and helping me grow, but it's not putting a dark cloud over my positivity.
Yeah, exactly. And I think things like the news cycle or social media are putting that dark cloud on top of, quote unquote, the information. So what I'm saying is, yes, get informed, right? But I don't think you necessarily need to get informed by consuming it from the news, which has, all you have to do is kind of follow the money. It's right. What does the money want the news to say? So I'm like you. I'm like, well, get informed. Read geopolitics, history. If you want to get informed because you're an entrepreneur and you want to understand the market, let's dive into that sort of information gathering and sourcing and going deeper into whatever market you need to understand. But the headline news isn't necessarily going to enrich you.
Yeah. And that's why I started the podcast, because I wanted a resource for people to come and get informed, on current things that will help them be better in what they do, but not be peppered with all of those negative headlines as you were talking about.
Well, peppered is such a great analogy, right? Like, because it's kind of like they want you to react to the spice, right? So you pepper it with all sorts of stuff, and everybody's tempers goes up and everybody gets agitated, and you're on this side and I'm on this side and up and down and left and right and whatever, right? That doesn't help you, I don't think. It can entertain you. It's like eating a box of chocolates, right? It's like, I'll have one more, I'll have one more, I'll have one more, but is it serving you? Probably not.
Maybe not.
Right.
So we talked a little bit about being stuck a few minutes ago, but what do you say to someone who says, oh, Colin, I'm just stuck. I just don't know what to do next.
Well, what I try and do with people in those situations is, let's look at the situation, right? And the first step is, what are the stories that you are telling yourself, right? What are you saying to yourself in your head, subconsciously or consciously? Because the narratives and the stories and the self-limiting beliefs that you are telling yourself thousands and thousands of times a day are getting in the way of you being unstuck and you thriving, right? So my first job anyway, I don't know if you have this sort of similar tactic, is what's going on here? What got you to stuck? Okay. And it may be a whole bunch of early childhood development conditioning. It might be some core sense of unworthiness. It might be a lot of self-limiting beliefs. It might be a disillusionment with the general perspective of society that's going on. And I kind of blame social media and the news on that, because a lot of people get stuck and depressed and full of anxiety and start using coping mechanisms like alcohol or drugs or other things to just kind of stay calm in today. So for me, it's going to the origin story of how did you get to this moment?
Yeah.
And breaking all of those stories down. What is true? What is not? What's made up? What's serving you? Is this fuel? Is this fueling your energy source? Is this giving you energy, or is this depleting you? And once you kind of break apart that puzzle, which for so many people that do get stuck, perfectly legitimate to get stuck, especially in the complex world that we live in. The stuckness is the belief in all of those stories, all of those narratives, all of those beliefs that have brought you to today, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60. You are seeing life through a series of lenses that have conditioned you to get to where you are today. Right. So my work is just really breaking those down. What's real, what's not, what works, what doesn't.
So when you get those people, and oftentimes they're suffering, and it could be from suffering from a loss, or as you say, suffering from this subconscious that's really driving them.
Sure.
It's sometimes it is that they have to be willing, though. So how do you get them to that point where they have that aha moment, that revelation that says, yeah, I need this?
Well, interesting, right? So there's a couple of points there. I think they have to be willing. I think that's number one, right? You have to be willing to recognize that perhaps you've been telling yourself a story on replay.
Yeah.
You know, the same thing over and over and over and over again. And it may be related to fear or victimhood or sense of self-worth or unworthiness. There's all sorts of perspectives and angles on the story that you're telling yourself. I don't think I can get people to the aha moment unless they've recognized that they need change.
Yeah.
You know, but it's interesting. I think the aha moment can be really rapid. And I don't think people need to be in therapy or coaching or any sort of healing journey for a long, long time. For me, it's about just diving deep into where did the origin story of this conditioning start?
Yeah.
Right. That I'm unworthy, or I need to take care of everything, or I need to say yes to everything, or I need to pull myself back in social situations because it's too much. There's all sorts of sort of signs and symptoms that you're simply, sorry, I shouldn't say that we just need to dive into where this came from.
Yeah, unpack it.
What early childhood small t trauma do we need to go to unpack it today? You're right.
Yeah. So what do you mean by the narratives in your head?
Oh, those are just belief systems. So belief systems supported by evidence, right? So I'm not good enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not bright enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm the last child of 8. I'm never going to make it financially because our family never made it financially. I'm a country girl or a country boy when, you know, I grew up in the city. Anything like that. And there's probably 50,000 a day that we tell ourselves, right? I'm good, I'm bad, I'm black, I'm white, I'm in between, I'm this, I'm that, I'm gender, whatever, right? They're all thoughts, and they all construct a story in your head that then can or not become a belief system, a crutch, a launch pad, a new destination, a new you, an excuse for staying in the past. So it's just, I suppose to answer your question is, what are you telling yourself? in your subconscious or your conscious? What are you telling yourself on a daily basis all day long?
So what do you mean by rediscovering your humanity and freedom?
So what I mean by that is we live in this world, I think, I mean, I might be totally wrong, but I think we live in a world today where you and I and our fellow humans have become disconnected from our humanity, disconnected from our simplicity, disconnected from the fact that we are a mathematical miracle that we're even here, right? Mm-hmm. Or mathematical or spiritual, whatever. It's a miracle that we're here, right? Correct. And we often forget about that and start hating on each other, or start shooting each other, or start calling each other racists, or start labeling each other, or start labeling ourselves, or believe that we need to have a war with, who knows? Or we get distracted by the news about this war over there, but we're forgetting about that travesty over there and all those people that need our help. So my call to rediscover our humanity is, can we all just remember that we are one species on one little rock that's minuscule, traveling at hundreds of kilometers an hour around its axis, right? Through space, right. Through a galaxy that we haven't even understood. So that's really about, for me, it's about perspective.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, come on. We're just a bunch, like, we're like an anthill on a little rock, right? And every day is a miracle. Yeah. So that's really my calling. It's like, let's, because I think divisiveness in whatever form, again, is a distraction from our essence and our true power and who we can really be. So that's
I think that's really a good point. There's two sides to that coin. One is that I am just this speck in amongst all these billions of people.
Yep.
And the other is, but what could I do individually? And we forget that the power of one multiplied, can make huge change.
Absolutely. And that's my whole point is, don't be the couch potato, right? Stand up and live in your purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying purpose has to be, become the next Nobel Peace Prize laureate, right?
Exactly.
Be a great dad, be a great mom, be a great creator for your family, be a great farmer, and again, it can be as simple as possible, but own it.
Be a great human.
Be a great human.
Yeah.
Be a great fellow human.
Yeah.
Don't look at that homeless person as an alien. They're one of us.
Yeah.
And it just so happens
that by the grace
culture,
of God.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really my
so how do you get people from knowing to embodying this whole concept?
Yeah, that's the trick. And that is a trick. And I think I know personally, I knew a lot for many, many years. I had my midlife crisis, my first one at 35. So I've had a bit of experience in, okay, well, what do you do next? And how do you make an impact and things like that? And I think the embodiment part is just and it's a tiny step, but it's big, is going from knowing what you're speaking about and knowing what you're reading to really getting it. And I had that experience with meditation. So I knew how to meditate. I knew how to meditate for the last 20 years, but I really didn't know about it until about a year ago, when something finally clicked and I was ready for it.
Yeah.
I think you have to be ready for it. I think it's a question of preparing the runway for it. To take the knowledge and live it. So that's not an easy bridge to cross, but I think one person at a time, I'm doing it.
So in your opening, you talked about how you lived in one part of Canada, then you went to Europe, and
Yep.
now you're in this other part of Canada.
Yep.
And so there has to be a bit of a impact or a result, an outcome of those travels, of those cultures,
Yep.
of the people that touched you along the way.
Yep.
And
Yep.
how did all of that help you to become fearless?
I think, well, no, I know that the journey from one country to another and living all over the world and working all over the world made me realize that we are just one humanity on this planet, whether you're whatever color you are, whatever race you are, whatever religion you are, wherever you come from. There is something that connects and bonds us all.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that through my travels and through my work around the world. And there's something very special about that unifies us, or that could unify us, right? Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but
how does it make you fearless though? How did that make you want to go outside your comfort zone, to take a risk?
Yeah, I think the fearlessness has really derived from jumping off the deep end so many times and not knowing what was coming next, and realizing at every intersection that I could deal with it. Yeah. I could manage it. I could get over it, whatever it was. And that's really my message to all of the people that, follow me or work with me, is just do it. I mean, that sounds like a sad
Nike commercial.
Nike reference. But if you just do it, you're going to get something out of it, and you're going to learn something from it. And I no longer judge my life in these short 60 or 80 years that we're here. It's like, well, we'll see the impact. Who knows when it'll come? So I don't judge things in short time scales anymore, because I know that, oh, wow, I did that 10 years ago. And it seemed stupid at the time, but now it's a blessing. So just do it, go for it, jump in the deep end, see what happens. Because when you're opening to seeing what happens, kind of limitless possibilities emerge, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I've been in such extraordinary circumstances, going, scratching my head. It's like, how did I get here? Like, how am I in this situation? That's just because I've said yes and said, okay.
I was just going to say, so many times people are afraid of that 3-letter word. It seems so easy to use that 2-letter word. But
right. Yes, you are right. And I've got a couple of friends that have done like tattoos that just say yes, it's like, go for it, do it.
Well, I know.
Just say yes.
I know after or during COVID, that really, for me, just put a different perspective on the fact that we are not guaranteed tomorrow. So I can't say no any longer to things.
Right. I mean, I've had, we're taking care of somebody that had a stroke a couple of months ago. Another person had a stroke. Another person fell and had a seizure at the airport. I mean, you can't rely on the next breath.
Yeah.
We don't know that it's coming. We assume that it is. We hope it is. But
we don't know.
If we don't, and if you treat life as if this may be the last breath.
Yeah. I have a saying on my desk that says, someday is today. Because we're so used to saying, someday I'm going to do this. Someday I'm going to do that.
And I think the pandemic accelerated that. I think that was that. I think for me, that was one of the great lessons, right? Oh boy, live now, live today.
Yeah, because before the pandemic, I turned 60 and I was retiring.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm just going to live life and I'm done working, and that changed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Because you or I at or around this age, we're like, well, I got 20 or 30 more years.
That's what I'm counting on.
Well, my grandmothers, both of them were like 99, right?
Yeah.
So why stop now? Who told us that we had to,
Exactly.
stop at 60, right?
Yeah. And share that wisdom.
Press the reset button.
Yes, for sure. It's time now for us to share my screen so that you can.
Okay. All right.
So anyone that's listening can go ahead and grab that paper and pencil so you can be able to write down the website information. And if you're watching, you can get that information on the slide, do a screenshot. So to contact Colin, go to his website, which is ColinKingsmill. So colinkingsmill.com. Again, that's colinkingsmill.com. He's on LinkedIn at Colin Kingsmill, and Instagram, Colin_Kingsmill. So you can visit those 3 sites. I'll let him talk to you a little bit more about his coaching and what else you might find when you visit colinkingsmill.com.
Yeah. So, I mean, my coaching approach, I think, is really about deconstructing to reconstruct as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody needs to sit around in psychological suffering for a long time. Get people, and it doesn't have to be me, but get people to pull you out as quickly as possible so you can thrive, so you can live a purpose-driven life and contribute to this world. Because I think if you as a personal ecosystem, as a personal biology, can be the best and do the best you can, then you're serving humanity. And it, like I said, it could be very, very simple. It doesn't have to be insane. So that's me. Deconstruct to reconstruct as quickly as possible.
All right. So if you haven't got that screenshot, please do so now. Again, those that are listening in, colinkingsmill.com is the website. And all of this information is going to be on my YouTube as well as my website. So if you didn't get it, you can get it from my show notes. So Colin,
Awesome.
It's been just wonderful chatting with you this afternoon. I truly enjoyed. I definitely like to do some future podcasts with you so
Anytime.
We can delve a little deeper into some of these topics. But as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.